I think we'll just see how this goes.
All right, that works. So state and national updates, and Jennifer, I may grab you. The state school fund budget did go through at its original, what, 11.36 billion. And so that was a good move. No moves in special education funding. So the special education cap, none of that shifted. And so everybody around the state really knows that into the future, legislators heard that that's the issue, but there wasn't the money to be able to make that happen. Same thing is true in looking at where they fit for high cost disability. Those sorts of things. As special education populations get higher with all over. No, that because we're capped at what we can take in for income, the costs for special education have the potential of only getting higher, that pulls away from what we get from every other student. And so either in a short session or in the next session, if it's at all possible, there's got to be a way to be able to make some changes within that. So there's an awareness that that's important to be able to make that happen, but it just didn't, thank you, it just didn't happen this time. We talked before, I'll jump to the bottom there, the Every Student Succeeds Act's federal program funds. We've got our Title I announcement, which feeds our RTII program, Title I basic skills for early learners especially. We had only gotten Title I funding, and the other funding, the feds never released the funding amounts. And they technically didn't have to until September 30th. That has since shifted to where the funds have been released. ODE found out about them maybe a week ago, and so they're running their calculations to be able to know where those things move and what district allocations will be. Ours will probably be the same, maybe a little bit lower.
Or Title I is a little bit lower than last year. We don't know Title II and Title III.
Right, but it's kind of an anticipation of where we're looking. And so we'll get some of that information, which helps us for 24, 25, or excuse me, 25, 26. It doesn't help us for 26, 27. All bets are off, really, for 26, 27. I raise it because we don't bargain about the federal program funds, but we've got people who are paid for in staffing, and we do some other things within those that we just have an awareness for. Fortunately, we aren't, fortunately and unfortunately, we aren't in the $1 million club of Title I. But we'd have to find a way to absorb, if we wanted to keep, some of those programs, roughly $200,000. And so that's the biggest of those federal funds, but it plays into what we do with other things. The nice part is funds that we didn't think we were going to get are going to at least be released for this year, which is a pretty sweet gig. Student investment account, high school success, same kind of thing. We don't bargain based on those, but we have some people in those places that set us up in that way. So
SIA and F98 are similar to last year's allocations, just slightly higher, not a huge amount, but I don't think they'll restructure them based on any ADM, but we may see a little bit change in allocations coming in September, I think, but we haven't heard that they're going to change a lot, so it should be very similar to what it was last year, within 30 to 40,000. Well, not huge fluctuations, thankfully.
yeah, good. Thanks. So it from a financial perspective, at least for this calendar or this school year, has become better than we even in June estimated that it could have been. And so that's a nice gift, a nice touch. Any questions, comments about state federal money? All right. Before we just kind of wanted to wrap back around with a couple of things from what we heard when we last met, and then start getting into the article responses. So a couple of things. that we have heard loud and clear, is the notion of communication and wanting communication, and agree that that's important. Um, uh, Summertime has been one to make some decisions into which everybody's on vacation, so it's hard to be able to get the input to be able to do some things. We are committed to the communication. What we want to work with you on is the languaging that is the communication. It's what does the language look like? How do we ask for communication? And how do we work together without a sense or feeling of we demand communication, or we demand um, um, the decision-making authority within. I mean, it's how do we message it to be able to get what we both want, but knowing that there is a commitment to communication. Um, had heard some things that I'll get into with some of these other pieces too. New employee in service has been a huge thing. And again, we had to put some things out to be able to make some decisions to be ready to start the school year. And so wanted to be able to share with you some of what we've kind of got into place, so you know, we want to hear. We've changed the structure of our new employee in service, and Kelsey and I are working together to be able to, because special educators are meeting on the same day, to be able to come together and make that day work for everybody. And so we've set it up for Kelsey will start with special educators at 8. We will start with new employees at 8:30, and the new employees who are special educators will join us probably closer to 9 or 9:30. And so it gives them a chance to get started with the special education world, move into some of the new employee in service, and kind of get the best of both worlds, so that we can make sure that there's opportunity there. We will have technology in that morning. There will be a piece of that our new special educators won't be able to participate in because of the special ed meeting, but we have plans for how to wrap back around. We'll take a break. Then we've got some nuts and bolts of a new employee handbook, which really is mostly about the things that we've done in the past. In terms of payroll, leave, those kinds of things. And then we plugged in, we're gonna try The Amazing Race, the TV show, to be able to give people clues, to be able to move from place to place, to be able to get to know where some of the facilities are, who some of the people are, have it be more interactive. We've got some things, some sentence frames to be able to give to mentors, to be able to talk with their mentee about what are the top things that you need to know about our school, about Synergy, about Google, about the first week of school, or anything like that. So it's the sentence frames that were a way of being able to start introducing those things that, for the people who live in the school, become very essential and very important. And then, of course, the afternoon always remains with our licensed staff to be able to meet with a mentor for the afternoon. Technology will be available in that afternoon to be able to meet with new licensed staff to be able to make sure the technology in their classroom works. The special ed folks, we're still working on the scheduling to make sure there's some afternoon time where our new licensed special educators have the opportunity to be able to have the technology folks in their classroom to be able to make sure they're up and running in the same way. So we took some of what was stated, knowing that there were issues and interests, to be able to put those together, to be able to craft some differences in how we start off the year and what we do for new employee in service. Safety continues to be a here. We have a manual started. We have process and protocol to review for communication and for room clears. We got that far. We have one of our in-service times for the whole school, and we're calling it a safety session because it's the first of a number that will be done by Mark Summers from LBL as one of our, we're going to do a rotation like we did last year, where people will spend 35 minutes in a different group. And one of those will be about how do you start your school year, and set up your classroom from a perspective of safety in your classroom, from the get-go. The other piece of it, which starts to bridge more on drills and communication, is we had an excellent, I'll call it an initial meeting because it's the first meeting in a number of years with a police and fire department today. To be able to rejuvenate our relationship, to work together again about safety related drills, about our communication protocols, lockdown, shelter, all those kinds of things. It was really nice and really energizing to be able to have that level of conversation and to be able to energize that relationship again. That was nice. We've also heard about technology. And we know that we looked at, there's been roughly without staff salaries and without all the licenses this year, a little over $500,000 has gone into the technology updates, to be able to do the things that we need to do. Right now, the new lines have been delivered in the majority of places. They're still waiting on some of the last ones. And as was stated in the letters that were sent home, the general format will be Chromebooks for the adults will be in classrooms. And if they're not, we can check at the office or check with technology to be able to make sure those are set up. During in-service week technology, we're going to schedule time for them to be in each school so that everybody can raise the questions, but have them in a concentrated spot, to be able to say, if you've got questions, they're here for a half a day, to be able to do these things, to be able to support you. The other thing we heard about was the notion of being able to put aside, for the board to be able to make sure that there's money put aside for ongoing technology needs. And the board is going to have that conversation. We're going to talk about budget priority information when we get together for our work session next week. Okay, I knew it was soon. And the thing that we need to take a look at and remember is there's not a separate pot of money. So if we're asking, or if the suggestion is we'd like to encourage the board to be able to set aside money for technology, there's no other money to set aside. And so to answer all the financial requests and have the board set aside $500,000 to $1 million in technology funding, there's going to have to be a give somewhere, in order to be able to make that occur. So it's just saying it's not like there's more money that the board has available to be able to set aside. We're going to have to figure that out in some way. So that was kind of I think if the team's got anything else, that were kind of some of the things that we walked away having heard in June that we've been ruminating on through the summer, and trying to work on things that would be able to give updates to kind of where we've been. Anything else, team?
Think you got it.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, Susan. I do want to touch back on a couple things that you talked about, and it's so nice to hear that that's been part of the conversations that you guys have had. The communication, it's a big one. We'd like to feel like we're on admin's team, and in the past few years, it feels like it's separated. And we'd like to get back. And so this idea of us demanding communication, it's unfortunate that that's the thought process that's viewed as when we're asking for language changes. We're right there in the front lines with the students.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked to you a lot about how teachers want to hear from leaders, the leaders that are guiding the school. And if they're not hearing from them, they feel lost. And they feel like somebody's not driving the ship and stuff. So this whole idea of communication is so we can be on the same page, and that we hear from you directly and feel and confident that, nope, we got it. The principals are on the same page. All the admins are on the same page. The school board's on the same page. And it hasn't felt like that lately. And so that's why the language changes need to give us that security with that. The new employee stuff, that's awesome. Safety, the technology, yes, that's one of those areas that staff has repeatedly said their job has become more challenging. It's not only is the safety an issue, the technology is an issue. We're struggling here. Our admin numbers keep increasing, our teacher numbers and our student numbers decrease. So when you're talking about setting money aside, when we see admin numbers keep rising and admin staying at home getting paid, while I hear that student numbers are declining and teachers we don't have the same amount of staff, it makes us wonder like, what's going on here? And so that's where, you know, we're asking for money to be set aside. We're asking for teachers to be put as a priority. And we're asking, especially when we just hear about insurance, we all just got notified about our insurance.
Yep.
And it's jaw dropping.
It is.
And so this is the stuff that's a priority to us, is making sure that we are a team. And I think our principals do a great job of trying to encourage that. We just want to hear from you, and we want some guidance in that area.
Are you talking, and I'm asking this specifically for the help. You want to hear from me specifically? You want to hear from the admin?
Asking for language changes, I think that sometimes the principals are not able to fully communicate to us because things are always changing or shifting. And so it's just that idea that everybody being on the same page. It provides comfort for us. It provides comfort for the students, for parents. It's just all around of like, no, we are truly a team here. And that's what we're trying to establish with you.
Right.
And with the admin.
And,
We want to be on the same page.
there's agreement there across the board. I think it's really about, the way that it is languaged, that we can make it work, but communication is essential. I mean, one of the things that was an example for me that I thought of this year, July 2nd, the governor signed an executive order about electronic devices. Nobody's around. And so what I did was I put out an email, I think it was just last week, to your PEA leadership to be able to say, heads up, we're going to have to, at the August board meeting, initiate a conversation about communication, electronic communication devices. And doesn't mean that we're going to adopt a policy, but there's not much more I can tell you in terms of the timing. But heads up, it's out there. If there's something we need to say it, but it's going to be on an agenda and I want no surprises. So that was kind of the thought for me about being able to say, if people want to know, I want to put it out there to say, it's going to be on an agenda. I don't know what it's going to say yet, but here we go. So, because I know that was a big sticking point from the media grabbing hold of the cell phone stuff before.
Well, I do think that today, hopefully, we're getting a little bit closer, and I think just meeting with our team, I feel like we're on the same page of what some of the language and everything. So hopefully, we'll make some.
Yeah. Do you have, Jennifer, off the top of your head, because I know we're down in admin now, we're not adding admin. Teaching staff.
Licensed FTE. It should be within one around last year.
102 or something, 100.
Right around there.
Okay, I was just curious, because I asked that just because I didn't know kind of where we're at.
But we have like 98 FTE, but that's not people. So, and I can see that it's maybe changed by about half the one FTE.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Cool.
I guess we're ready
Okay.
for responses.
Yeah,
okay?
so
Yep.
honestly, when I came to this, I'm like, I can't remember if we're responding or we're not. But, so we did prepare some responses
Good, thank you.
and, I'll pass those. things.
To tag on that, before we start with this, to just identify that we've made changes in this proposal to reflect where priorities are and we're trying to find compromise in some areas there
Mhm.
based on your last proposal with some of the language, so you're gonna see,
Oh, this is single sided.
hopefully this will be helpful with, being able to see and hear the areas that we still are, you know, of the highest level of concern and areas where we're moved to try to find some compromise there.
Excuse me.
That's correct. So, and don't mind me, when I was typing, I didn't hear everything everybody was saying, so hopefully, please, my team, jump in and help me out with it. So Article 12 is where we're gonna start. And, I'm just looking through your guys' proposal to verify. So I think that we were both in agreement on, C and 1. And that's where, we went ahead and got that change. And then, everything else would be original contract language, except for E with the extended contracts. We have the licensed employees in there. And then their contracted salary for a maximum of 30 hours. That's for the outdoors pool that I believe we agreed on before. And then, the other change in that area would have been the special ed section, section G. You guys have proposed some language there about, the district acknowledges the significant role special education case managers play. That language is yours on G.
Yep.
And so, that is all of, well,
Excuse
Share with me.
Yeah, so, okay, so for H, for special education case managers, we're rejecting the making our calendar available to the district 60 days in advance. The district already has access to our district Google Calendar. So they have access to our calendar 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So to us, what it sounds like is you are proposing that we make available to the district our calendar from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. A guarantee that we would have that up to date, a minimum of 60 days in advance, and that would be part of our collective bargaining agreement, so we are definitely rejecting that. We're also rejecting the 48-hour notice to cancel a meeting. And this is where I think special education, actually, it's not different than education. Canceling a special education meeting or taking a day off when you're sick is a nightmare. The only time I think I canceled an IEP within 48 hours, I pulled into the parking lot at 7 a.m. for a 7:30 meeting and literally threw up in the parking lot. But
Good thing.
the next day, when I returned to school, I told Nicole, I'm never doing that again because it's such a nightmare to reschedule. I will sit in the corner of a room with a garbage can and hold the meeting. So I don't think any of us if we are canceling within 48 hours, it just needs to be done. However,
Excuse me, where is the 48 hours?
It was an hour.
that was
it was in your proposal.
Right, but I'm just looking for where it landed. Was
I'm
it,
not,
They're striking.
I don't-
Yeah, so-
right in front of me.
but I've got
I
our
think
copy in front of me, so,
Shelley is capturing the background on a lot of this, so.
right,
we-
I was
we
just
had
looking
made
in ours to
proposals
be able to
about
find,
Special ed case managers with specific items about IEP meetings, and we had concerns about that.
Yep.
And we've decided to step back significantly and withdraw those proposals. She's speaking to some of the components
right,
that
and
you had proposed, and we weren't sure if that was just a response to ours, or if that was a new idea that we wanted to pursue. You know, with this, we're saying, okay, we have this statement about IEP meeting
oh, okay, I
notification
just
and
wanted to know where it
scheduling
was.
that we've agreed to, and in terms of what I was saying before about us identifying priorities, we're walking this back and trying to trust that the work that has already started on this front in terms of collaboration with Kelsey and the special ed department is gonna continue. There are these concerns that are out there that
Yep.
Shelley is identifying about, and I think about stuff that you have proposed. And our take on this is, we're just gonna walk it all the way back, and basically, we're not going completely to current contract language, because we would include G1 in there. But we're walking away from this issue with trust that the good work that started it is gonna continue, but we're going out on a limb with that, but it's one that the team feels comfortable.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what I was looking for, because I'm trying to crosswalk between both
Yeah.
documents, is where the reference was in art, so I apologize for that. Sorry, Shelley, continue, and then I can
Okay.
answer to A.
So what I was saying is that we really, like, we're actually, special education, we have received our itinerary from Kelsey for the 25th.
Oh, I see.
She is very committed to making sure that we are all on the same page. And so we are comfortable with walking this back and striking the changes in this section and this proposal
Okay,
of H in good faith that things are gonna move forward with Kelsey. And in an effort to just focus on our priorities, which remain safety and salary.
thank you. I was jumping ahead in my brain to something different, so
No worries.
I can understand the concern with these two, but if we're getting rid of other pieces of the language, this is context.
Yes.
And so, thank you. It
And
just
I'll-
took me a minute to get there.
Not in the contract, as I understand it, the Kelsey's working kind of a handbook, because, you know, there's
Yes.
lots of different ways to interpret, like reasonable, and we've talked about
Yes.
examples of twins or individual, how many meetings
Yeah.
a day, and so if I wasn't here to hear all those conversations, I would miss out on that and really think about how
Right.
that, so I'm glad Kelsey's gonna work on some of those documents, so the building principal, I kind of have some
Yeah.
feeling about that.
Thank you. So, and, some of the other pieces I know, from what Kelsey had talked about is much of that Monday, for special
Yes.
educators is going to be about spending time working on schedules and providing
Yes.
calendars so that the year can start off with that kind of information. And with that in play, then, it makes sense to remove a 60 days. It was kind of like if there's nothing else, then we've got to have some calendar set. You know, in a way of getting things. And so it was kind of that ballpark shot in the dark, but yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to recap on this one, when we go back, really, in our proposal as it stands right now, the only substantive changes, technical, in like a technical sense from the current language, is our agreement around the hours for the outdoor schools.
Yep.
Right, the other, as it stands right now in our proposal, we're changing, we're updating another there that
Yep.
it's her that we've been doing. We had this statement recognizing school obligations potentially outside of the day. We had this statement about commitment for special education case management, which is just something, it's not insignificant, but beyond that, in this current proposal, there's no real other changes in
Right.
there anymore that are. We're walking that part back.
Thank you.
Are you guys ready to look at
Here
13?
we go.
I just don't want to go too fast, because I love for us to kind of finish up.
No, I was
this
just, I
today.
was just dancing myself
Yeah.
ahead in two different documents and
Okay.
it wasn't good, so.
So 13, there is a lot of little things about, there is gonna be just some minor changes here and there. But we accepted your change for administration instead of building principal. We both, I believe, were okay with the include time for school-wide. Originally it was review, but we would like school-wide calibration on the implementation on there. Again, because we are a part of that classroom discipline, we'd like to have some sort of understanding of how to implement it and that collaboration with admin. And also where it says staff input shall be required in development and annual review. We do feel like discipline is one of those areas that should be looked at every year. And reviewing, did those processes and procedures work for us? Did it, do we need more? Do we need less? That sort of thing. And B, I think we, again, accepted your changes on administration or designee. And then, we have, again, your changes with for a student. And then including those involving extremely disruptive behavior. We're used to disruptive behavior on, a normal level. That's our everyday life. That's just a Tuesday.
Welcome to school.
It's when it becomes disruptive for other students in the environment for them to learn. So that's the extreme that we're talking about there. Again, your changes for administrator instead of principal. On B, and then C. This is also in collaboration of your language that we were accepting. This is one of those things that I think all acknowledge that every school is doing things differently. And so hopefully that we can align that district-wide, and so the process is the same. We are not expecting blanket communication back to all teachers on what's going on with a specific student. We just want communication back to the reporting teacher or those who are involved. That's what's important to us.
Okay.
If something's going on in my classroom and I had to remove a student, to be brought back in on that communication is what's important,
Okay.
is to hear what's happening and what the process is from there. D, the student handbook would be posted. The student placement and education plan creation must be created with the input of licensed employee who is responsible for implementing the student plan. So the color change is bothering me on that one, but that's okay. And E, the student handbook would be posted on the district website. Any changes, again, would be communicated back to staff. Any questions so far? I don't want to just keep jumping if anybody has any. Let's see, F. We have the individualized discipline behavior plans or behavior plans, and then the bottom part of F, which is really important to us, that licensed employees will be given training and practice in use of any physical intervention tactics that are identified in the behavior discipline plan prior to the students entering to the general education classroom. Trained and temporary support will be provided until training can occur. We're not asking to withhold education for students. We totally are on board. They're in our district, they need to be in the classroom. No questions about that. But if there needs to be some support there as far as that behavioral discipline plan, we need some support in the classroom of trained individuals until a process or a plan can be put in place. And training can be implemented with staff. Does anybody have anything like that?
That support is important.
And then everything else is just changing of the letters.
Make it match.
Yeah. And then we already agreed on H.
This question about the app, what you just said. There's two cents to me, or just, I understand, but they sound contradictory as it's like. It has to happen prior. Then the next sentence is. Training tips will be provided until training occurs. So it seems to me there's like a.
Support from someone who's already trained will
Yeah,
be there until we are
Until the
trained.
general education teacher can be.
We're in there.
What if you took out the first word of what if it was said temporary support provided until training can occur? And.
We want to make sure that they are trained, like.
Yes,
It's a
somebody
kid who's
has
gonna
to be
need
there.
help,
Until
and
training.
they need to be CPI certified.
And if you guys want to make changes and present it back to us, then.
Yeah, we had some different language that I think we can get at.
One of your proposals that
Yeah.
recently was the trained temporary support
Yep.
will be provided, and so. Our team liked that
Yeah.
part of the response back and see that tied back to the licensed employees will be given training and practice.
Yeah.
In the use of physical intervention tactics, like we heard this concern of. All right, we just got the student, we've got them in, we're waiting on, the plan came in, we're in the moment. They're in this fifth grade classroom, if this teacher doesn't have that training, what do we do? So we like that part of that. So we put that in there, I can see where you're coming from, with the ordering of that. It gets back to, I think the main difference is prior to the student's entry into the general education classroom, which is just back to, I mean, we understand things like somebody might not come with the plan. We get it 3 or 4 days later. Well, when do we find out about it? That's when this, not our proposal, it would start, but if we know about it and we know that there is this specific plan, we want to be looking at what are the lawful alternatives that we can explore for the student while we are bridging in that period, getting to the training, and so, yeah, it is out of order because we're keeping the part, and it's in the essence of what you had proposed back, is we're keeping that one part in the general education classroom prior to that in there.
So you understand the sticking point.
Yeah, because the language that we had what before said licensed employees will be given training and practice in the use of any physical intervention techniques that are identified in the behavior/discipline plan. Temporary support will be provided until training can occur. The piece that it sounds like is missing is,
Prior to this.
Your proposal struck that part,
Yeah.
and we're keeping our part in there.
okay, and I think there's ways we can put it together, but the intent is, it sounds like is the same. Yeah.
Close.
Yep,
Close,
we are.
yeah.
And I think just as a quick aside, I mean, if there are discussions that come up about concerns that people raise and about, what's the lawful conditions, what do we need to do with this? I mean, I think we understand that in a smaller district, there are gonna be curveballs that come in every once in a while. You're not gonna have covered everything that happens, but like back to the communication part, back to the work
Yep.
that special ed staff is relaying in terms of feeling more comfortable going in that direction. But let's talk about those things.
Agreed.
If we've got somebody, if we've got somebody who believes that something should happen to a student and that there is a perspective that that's not lawful, let's get in there and talk about that.
Agreed.
But in the meantime, what we're seeking to is just this commitment in the language that we're gonna recognize that there's gonna be a placement, and it may not be that full-blown entry when we know that there's a plan that's there. So what are we gonna do in the interim to get the training and make sure, because it's not only staff, but it's a student
Yeah.
concern from all the, like, I think we've heard from people, but all this, like, none of the
Yep.
students who are there, maybe experience a student who's dysregulated, but it's also, how do I meet this kid's needs? I don't even know what's going on because I don't have the report, like,
Right.
so what can that look like? And I think that we're not interested in filing grievances. We're interested in having a commitment in the contract language, that's why it's in the proposal. But it's really about how can we, use that as a mechanism to increase the communication around unique issues like this and work through it.
Mhm.
Which the concern is if we don't have that in there, then we're exposing people to, enrollment that's not best for that kid in the moment or the rest of the staff, the kids in that.
Okay,
Can I get a little
Yeah.
clarification on C? And I'm just gonna throw out a high school scenario,
Thinking about.
because this is how I'm reading it, so. Matt Kelly writes up a student for being disruptive. That student is in your homeroom, Nicole,
Mhm.
so the results of that. Write-up need to be communicated to you, the homeroom teacher.
I mean, it would be nice that we would love it if it would hit every person every staff member that individual has contact with. It's the same thing at the elementary school. Something happens to a kid on the playground and they're reported. The other teachers that are dealing with that same incident need to be notified, or not the same student that day at that touch point. That's how, especially, I mean, if something happened on the playground and I have that student in my classroom all day, I need to know what happened with that student and be
Yeah,
prepared.
they might come in after lunch dysregulated otherwise, and you wouldn't have a clue about that.
And I don't know if Synergy has a way to just flag those individual staff members that have contact with that student throughout the day, or if it's something that Synergy can turn on, as far as like if an incident is reported in an advisory or homeroom or on the.
Yeah, and
On the
see, that push and pull, but where the high school uses a different system, we're using Google Docs to share information back and forth, and so it'd be beautiful to streamline it so that everybody had access to whatever program we stuck with, but.
We talked about that just a little bit this afternoon, but earlier about right now we've got issues that are discipline incidents that are in the student information system. That's not so much the issue, it sounds like, as much as it is about who can see it. And there are some instances where a behavior incident needs to be known by a broader audience. There are some situations where a discipline incident being shared with a broader audience can be an absolute detriment to a kid.
Sure.
And so we just need to be thoughtful about what and how and when that sharing looks like. And so that's kind of the piece of the conversation is we don't want to go so far. It's the same kind of thing we talked about this morning with the police and fire about the angst of some of our families when we put out information about there was a threat at blah, blah, blah school today. Well, what happened? You don't need to know. But it's kind of that education of where things go. And so there are some nuances within that. But yeah,
And
it
we
was,
agree with that.
We do agree,
We
yeah.
100% agree with that. What we also struggle with is not every admin follows up the same way.
right.
And the timeline in which they follow up is dramatically different.
Right.
So
Yep.
depending on the admin that's assigned to the student, it could either be a quick turnaround and it's quickly dealt with in the
Yep.
response and the parent is contacted. If it's another admin,
Never.
Yep.
literally crickets.
Yep. And I also get that's one of the reasons we started to have the conversation about, yeah, everything's in the student information system, but does that really answer what the need is? Putting it in the system is easy.
Buildings.
Yeah,
It-
and
Yeah,
so,
have to get there at some point. I think the matter of like for a long time, people always fill out on paper, right? And then they
Right.
went into the old system and like.
Some
and, like,
buildings are still using.
What do you
paper.
mean that they all have to get there at some point?
They're required to go into Synergy and assist system like for state reporting at some point. And that's where they have. to go.
Okay, so they're in there, but it doesn't mean that an admin had to deal with it.
Right,
Oh.
yeah.
Right, or
You're
that
right,
the
it goes
teachers
into,
had
I
access
put it in
to
there,
it.
does not mean an
I-
admin follows up and takes care of it.
Correct.
see, that's a different piece of it too,
That's-
because
Yeah.
at the high school, if my understanding is correct, you are doing the entry for some particular incidents.
Yes.
That's not happening
No.
at the elementary or
I'm
middle
not
school.
saying that.
No, I
And-
mean,
and
it just,
doesn't
it
mean that
happens
everybody
differently.
Has to do it the
No.
same way.
Nope.
It'd be amazing if it did, but it's that piece of like, yeah, I can put it in there and I'm saying that there's an issue. And I'll have admins that will take care of it and I have admins that don't.
So, I mean, and
Okay.
again, like, we do want to say for sure that we understand that it's nuanced and that every school
Have a little different flavor.
does things differently because you're dealing with students of different ages who need different things, but like an example would be this last year, Nicole, Savannah and I had a student, the student's on my caseload, Nicole's homeroom, Savannah in math class, and the three of us and mom were in constant contact, and if something happened in Savannah's class, Nicole and I needed to know. You know, and I think like generally with those kids that are kind of higher flyers and need more support, our admin is aware of that. And they do a great job, but if you have a kid who gets in trouble out like in music and then comes back really upset because they feel like they were
Right.
treated fairly or something, it's great to have some front loading for a teacher on that. And then also, I think it just makes us look like a better, more well-oiled machine if we can reiterate to parents what happened as far as
And from an elementary perspective,
disciplining a child.
we're walking them literally to their cars at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And sometimes there's been a disciplinary action that happened at lunch or at recess. And those parents are communicating because they've already heard and we're in the dark.
And
We
I
didn't know
think,
anything even
yeah.
happened.
And we didn't
They're
even
asking
know,
us
and so we
clarifying
looked so ridiculous to that parent.
So one concern that I have is that in the scenario that I brought up, that issue might be a privacy issue that I can't share with the home teacher. And this language doesn't address that, and that's where I'm struggling with this current language.
so you guys could add in
Add in,
where with,
yeah.
like,
So I think,
And I-
which
absolutely, I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely appropriate,
Yeah.
it's just, and I want teachers to know, it's just there's.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
there's
it's
kind of
not
like
shared.
that, yeah.
I also want to be clear about our proposal, because we have this ideal that we're hearing where it's like, everybody that touches, has contact with the student in the ideal world would know, in the extent of privacy or law or whatever. But just to be clear on this, with our proposal here, there would be, unless there were 3 teachers who filed the same report for some reason or something like that, there would never be more than 1 or 2 maximum people here with the wrap back communication, because, so here, example, if I'm the 5th grade teacher and this student is in my class and I file the report, there's 1 wrap back. If the PE teacher files the report, or the classified staff at lunch files the report, then there's gonna be wrap back with that 5th grade teacher, because that would be in our concept here, considering that to be homeroom. Same way up at your level with the MAC, and our proposal would require Matt and then Nicole to be communicated with. So I mean, I think if there are issues about that, we should talk to, but that's what we're attempting in some way to capture. Yeah, we would like everybody to know, that's not feasible, but what one of the bigger concerns comes back, like, and Crystal's hitting on it, like, when stuff happens and there's some report that is filed, maybe it's by an instructional assistant or someone, like, that 5th grade teacher needs to know about it. I mean, I think and from the high school perspective, it's still thinking like, yeah, homeroom should know as well, because that's like the base point of connection. And maybe if Nicole, I mean, if there's privacy issues that need to be talked,
Then
maybe if
that-
Nicole knows
yeah.
about the homeroom, she can help distribute some of that communication on her own to other staff that need to know or would benefit from knowing about it.
Sometimes it might just be one person
Mhm.
that wants their wrap back, that this was handled, this is the plan that we made, if we needed a plan, and
Mhm.
that's part of
Yeah,
it
and
too, it's not about the number of people, it's just
It
that
is.
if there's a follow-up. I wrote, like, I would like admin to communicate with parents. I would like to know that admin
Did it happen?
actually communicate with
Did it
parents, what
happen?
happened.
When, in my first year, one of the things that came out for our building was a sped case management wanted to be in the loop. So I think it is a little bit more tricky
It
when
is.
you think about that. And that's partially why Synergy, when I looked at the incident, right, to have all the staff and such are classified, it was like really an arduous form. There are some good things about it, but one of the reasons we went with Google was just so that it could do the auto send to those
Quicker.
people. That's kind of
It could be
a,
days or weeks before Synergy was involved in our building.
right.
And that's just not, that
Right.
doesn't work.
Trying to find common sense solutions that like
Correct.
where, people can get it when when your sped staff wants to know you have a homeroom teacher and maybe you have a classified person on the recess. It could be a walk to where maybe Grace doesn't have the kid right after lunch because they go here, but they're still hot on something. So that's the
Exactly.
nuance and the complexity of how collaborative we are. Good thing about our district, but you also just there, how many people to try to run around on roller skates to
I get it.
communicate, so. I think what you're asking, I mean, I think. It definitely sounds best practice, I definitely hear that.
I
And to
would-
be clear, sorry.
well, I would like to say that I do think that it's important to have the case manager, if they're in special education, involved in that, just because we communicate a lot with parents, especially parents who have behavior. But I also understand that that might be handled differently at each building, so that manual is there.
That's what I was just gonna double, I mean.
Yeah.
Please don't interpret our proposal as saying, we don't think the special ed teachers should be looped in
Yeah.
on that, because we do, but we're trying to triage essentially to find compromise and identify what is it at the end, and it starts with that home teacher. And the reporting teacher, obviously, it could be the same, but yeah, I think in the ideal world, we would have case manager on there and classified, but we recognize limitations, and so we're trying to give that base priority there, if that makes sense, but we don't wanna we're not advocating for keeping sped people in the loop. We understand that you can't circle back and have the time to do that with everybody right away.
And I've had many conversations to the pickup line thing where it's like, I understand a parent wants to, you know, if there's something alleged and they want an investigation and they want a response and they want the discipline, they want it all put on a bow in the same afternoon after that. And it's like, and it's
Yeah.
something too where I've had to educate parents on, it's in the queue. We work really hard to get back to you. And so, and also that part that like, I don't ever want somebody to be caught off guard, but also say like, you know, as soon as I can get back to you and know that like, that's the process too, that sometimes there's just, you know, I love the high expectations we have from many of our parents, and as an admin, we work really hard, but that's just another pull on that piece of like, there's a lot of steps to the process to do it in a fair and equitable process, and just.
I think from our building, it's just, if too much time goes by, it's sometimes just dropped because that's easier and there's too many in the queue.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
main issue in our building.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times like email would work too. Like,
Yeah.
If you just email teachers real quick and said, "Oh, there was an incident at lunch today, just so you're aware.
Yeah.
And that can go to 3 people at once.
And then you have that
Put the words on.
information and you can say confidently to the parent, I know we have eyes on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
Heard
bringing
about
it to our attention. I'm aware, we've got eyes on it.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you. We'll circle back to you.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Okay, Article 17. This one. I believe it was, we're accepting your language in A. Couple little things there. And then, we were rejecting your language on, you had the C, the short-term unpaid leave section. And the table in there. Oh,
Should be C.
it should be C on there. It says donated leave that has an A.
Okay, yep,
Yeah.
got it, got it.
And then we already have an MOU for C, the donated leave.
Right, it was just making
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. And then,
Just real quickly on this part of it, I mean, I think that we just have concerns overall about the specificity and jumping into this short-term unpaid leave issue. We understand that this can be a concern, and our preference would be to continue to talk about it, to address it in labor management settings if there are issues with it, but our concern is that this has some ideas that are in there that could, you know, potentially be stuff that's worth looking towards, but it's too specific for us right now to jump into that. And so and we're wanting to move forward. That's why we're rejecting that part. But like, we, just so you know, part of our conversations involved, yeah, there are districts out there that utilize pay your own substitute deductions for things. But it's just, it feels complicated to us this late in the game with that, and we'd like to just continue to talk about it with problems if they're there.
but we do feel like it's important and that we will talk about it with our licensed staff at our meeting and, make sure that they understand about using time and, we do need to do some more education in that area about leave and we'll put it on the priority to have that conversation. 19 is compensation. We have said from day one, compensation was our top priority for our members. They spoke loud and clear to us. There was really it was universal compensation was big.
That was
We,
before the insurance.
that was
rates
even
went up.
before that we just got hit this week of like, oh my gosh.
yep,
And so, we're sticking with our, proposal of 5%. For the 25-26 school year. And then another 5% for the 26-27 school year. And then with our experience stipend being 2.5%. We can't emphasize enough of how our members are being hit financially. Housing, groceries, you name it, we're feeling the pinch with it. And now on top of that, the insurance, that is really going to be hard on our staff. A lot of them don't even know yet of how difficult it's going to be. And, I feel bad.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
With a little personal, thing. So I spoke 2 years ago at a board meeting when we were doing bargaining, and I was talking about how I was kind of appalled at the amount of rent I could afford. And 2 more years have passed, and I recently saw, the first apartment I lived in when I was a brand new teacher. And it's available, and it was listed for like $100 less than what I'm currently paying, which is my absolute max I can pay. And I've gotten my master's since then, like I'm over 3 columns and I can afford the same place, which is fine, but you know, I think I mentioned before, like the place I'm living now has mold and there's concerns. It's just frustrating that I haven't really gotten anywhere financially.
Yes.
And it just feels like the workload and the challenges keep increasing, but the pay is, just hitting us hard.
And from the other end of the spectrum, being on the other end of things, like 45% of us are on that other end, caring for aging parents, having kids in college, or at home, or supporting our communities and our 4-H kids and we're feeling the pinch and don't move, you know, always at that level either, so. It's challenging.
Mhm.
Challenging.
I think we both agree on 7 from, the proposal from the district. That language hasn't changed. And 8, is language that was proposed by the district that we are accepting.
Excuse me.
9, we want to keep the language as is. And there's an extra 9 there, that should not keep there. Really want to emphasize 9.
That's a good number.
Sorry about that.
Way with 7 and 8 too.
Well, they all do that.
Mhm.
5, 6,
Again, it's a very important article. Just wanting to make sure. we're on
That's
the
us on
same
5
page.
through 9.
Let's see what else. And then 10 was again, the dual degree. And I don't know if you had chances to talk about, I'm sure that you had just by our conversation
Yeah.
earlier this week. But like we said, we would just really like it to impact, the current staff members that have been working underneath, the dual degree, but they have a dual degree, but are in the BA column. And so,
Doing something for them.
some kind of acknowledgement for their education that they've acquired. Keep going. And then on, hopefully 9 is the correct one. That we're accepting your proposal of, the national board certification. Yeah, language in there that was with administrative approval and support to 10, we accept that language proposal. Are there any questions on? Article? We don't want to just jump and keep on it. On Article 20, we've accepted, your changes for Article 20. We, especially it's nice to hear some of the changes that are being made for the new hire. So hopefully that, will take care of a lot of the issues that we're having. And so the idea that new staff will be, updated on facility access, making sure that they are able to get into the buildings right away. And that they have all the codes for the alarm, that they have all the technology they need with their passwords, accounts. That's all really important. And understanding who will be observing and evaluating them.
I didn't notice that we just need to change on the very top.
Feature to the staff.
To the very top should be new staff orientation. Or teachers. Licensed employees.
Looks like several times, so at 3 different spots, right? The,
New staff, new staff, new staff.
Yeah,
oh, no, they're.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
At the end, we had two separate pieces for policy handbook and collective bargaining agreement, and you have it as E and F. Under the.
yeah, the policy handbook and contract.
They were in the old independent headers.
They're separated.
They were separate. Oh, and I put them under as E and F. Yeah,
Just semantic.
yeah. We can pull those out or put them under. It doesn't-
It's just in the
yeah.
formatting.
It's different
It's-
language, though. E is combining the two paragraphs. F, I don't see in our version, but maybe I'm just not seeing.
Yeah,
it.
we'll
There's
just
a
have
lot
to,
of colors on this
we'll just
paper.
take a, we'll just take a look at it.
I think we're on the same page. I think if we can just clean it up, I think we're
Yeah.
all, because we're
Yeah.
using your language, so we can format it and clean it up to make it.
F is part of the current language.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Nothing changed.
thank you.
just the lettering should be instead of just being cut out.
Excuse me. Oh, it was over here.
Oh.
We had
Gotcha,
moved out.
okay.
Article 28, vacancies and transfers. The first paragraph is just changing, language from teachers and staff to licensed employees. The interview committee, I feel like we all felt like last time we tried to, explain our reasoning for this piece. So it is our original language and, in there, we want to be part of the process. And we would like, especially when it's in an area, subject area of our knowledge and expertise, we'd like to be a part of that interview committee. Whether it is in the actual interview process, maybe it's looking through resumes, having input there. But we'd like to have some collaboration with the district on that. Everything else looks like it's just from teacher to licensed employee. Page here. Yeah, so that is the only thing on Article 28 is we'd like to keep our language proposal for the group meetings. School safety. We accepted your changes, so you'll see that it is that top section is your language. And then the immediate threat section is just the changes from teacher to licensed employee. And we accept where it says immediate threat to student and or staff safety. And let's see what else was there. Including the section that we would like to have in there where it says school administration, this is on A, immediate threats. School administration will take necessary steps, including documentation of dangerous situation, threat assessment protocol if needed. So we'd like to have that language added in. And then section, let's see, is that C?
Yeah, we just simplified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pick a number or pick a letter, any
Pick a letter,
letter.
Gonna go with that
At
one.
the very bottom.
Yeah, so we accepted your language changes there, pretty much all of it. And then the facilities one is also included there. We know that, this is an area that is a costly area. Again, this is just stemming from the struggle that teachers have had with technology. We're willing to come to some sort of agreement on this one. We know that technology is, we talked about it being a priority and to really focus on that this year. Especially training, implementation, actual hardware, some software. And again, we know our technology department is fantastic too, on top of that. It's just, we really got beaten down this last couple of years with technology and it dragging. And, so we do have that article in there. You guys have any questions?
At the beginning of this one, this last one,
Sure.
you said something like, we're willing to work, what do you?
Bottom line compensation's our thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it,
Okay.
it's compensation.
Duly noted.
Any questions? Before we go away and visit? No questions.
I had one question back on Article 28, and 100% agree with that idea of expertise and involvement in hiring. One of the things that we talk about, like with elementary, is we could have, a teacher at multiple grade levels. So wondering if you're thinking about involvement potentially in screening or in a interview part or in a lesson demonstration or references, but there's a lot of different components. Why maybe you wouldn't use that language of hiring committee shall be formed at building level for the purposes, and then all should be invited to participate in the hiring committee, so that then there could be
They could
components.
be different roles that they could
Correct,
play,
yes,
yes, yes.
So I just, because
Yeah, feel free to throw out that language as a response to it. Yeah.
I just want to make sure if you were really attached to the word interview there versus hiring committee.
I'm wondering, can we take a half an hour to see where we're at? And then go from there? Okay. That work?
Back.
Yeah, or we'll have a runner come down and talk about where we're at, and thank you, Jennifer. Decide if I need anything for this.
Okay.
Jason, did you get some vacation?
I did, yeah, well, nice.
Did you guys go down to see?
Ed and I actually, it was our 25th wedding anniversary. She had really, she was really doing trips, so she kissed my arm and, we went to Finland for like, we actually all over. I don't like to fly, I've never been to Europe before, but we just did a good job. Great trip.
Good.
I really, no, I mean, she was just like, I wanna go, and she let me pick it, I was like, I'm not going anywhere that's hot.
That's all I have to say.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Which I follow as part of the school calendar.
Mhm.
They list themselves as HR. But one there's a lot of postings about protests, and political activities. That should be a no.
No, we gotta renew those in. Yep.
I was gonna have that. Advisor.
Oh, yes, no, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just keep me wrong, solid.
We usually listen to those things. Off the top of your head, because I don't have my notes, the listed time we put out for the next meeting.
It's on my phone.
It's August 12th,
Mhm.
3:30. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had the right time. Okay, thank you.
Actually, 4. 4 and 4.
Oh, Aaron had 4.
That doesn't mean that's right.
It was on what the email that went out today.
Okay. 4 and 4.
Okay.
But it might be that we were gonna be at 3:30.
Yeah, and we can do that. Yeah, we can. I just want to make sure that we know what time we're starting. So, okay.
That email summary though, like, here are the upcoming meetings.
I know.
Oh, that was crazy.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I put that out there and I thought,
Busy week.
5
next week.
next week.
yep, we're gonna get real friendly. So
We are.
we're ready to roll. Um, first of all, thank you. We feel like the level of conversation continues to refine and be better and better and better and better. And we feel a sense that there is truly a willingness and a desire to work together as opposed to being at offense with each other. And so really appreciate that. So what we did was we kind of took a look at what were those things that we could decide readily within a half an hour. And if we spent, more than a minute and a half asking questions about it, we said, let's come back around with the time that we've got. And so where we got to was article number 12, school calendar, workday, work year. We agree to in its way. We'll make sure that it's typed and put together. The other is number 17, other leaves. Same thing, okay there. And number 31, school safety. So those 3, I don't know that I don't have the copies for TA, but I figured we could do that at the very start of when we get together again. We spent a little bit of time looking at and talking about 13, the maintenance of classroom control and discipline. And really, it's just the words and making sure that things are that we have a chance to take a look at what the words are and what it says, and just to make sure we're in agreement. So
Clean up the last sentence.
yeah. And so get to the right pieces here. So 13 we are close. We just want to bring back the last piece of the language. And make sure that there's agreement, but it's just putting it in format. 20, the policy handbook. I got it here, is again, one of those that's close. The thing that we will look at specifically when we rewrite is the notion of digital access. That will be, there are places in here where it says we'll be provided with updated copies. And we're really getting away from doing whole scale print. And so that will be the slant that we'll be looking for. So it gives you something to think about, that we're looking at formatting, but our thought are really about providing digital access. So that just gives you information.
For the handbook.
For the handbooks.
Specific.
And policies are online anyway.
Sounds good.
28 vacancies and transfers. Again, we're close. It's just that little piece of language. For instance, one of the things that we looked at when it said in B, interview committees for vacancies, we looked at changing the header to something like hiring protocol. So it opens up the notion of being a part of interviews and or screening. Again, we're close. It's just what should that language read that really makes it sound like what we think the intent is. And so what that leaves us with, and we'll come back with those right away when we meet again, the ones that we need to spend a little time looking at are Article 19 compensation and the Article 32 facilities. There are some work we need to do to be able to take a look at that. And as far as compensation, calculate some things and work on some pieces there. And so we will come back with responses to those, but those are really the ones that we can't say right off the top. It's just a semantics issue because there's too much we want to calculate and take a look at. So did I get it? Okay.
We heard you loud and clear what your priority is.
Thank you.
You asked us to come back and be creative, so that might happen next time. We might
That's
have
the
to
other
come back
piece of the
and be
puzzle
creative
is it's
next
kind of
time.
like, okay, how can we be creative? So that's the other piece of taking some things back to be able to take a look at is
Well, we appreciate that.
what are the pieces?
Great.
So,
Okay. Awesome.
and then we're on for Tuesday and we had to start at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. And I will make sure from Michelle that we have this space. Because she put us in the community conference room and that just, it gets to be too tight up there depending upon where we're going.
That'd be great.
And so, again, thank you. We can't express enough how appreciative we are about the process.
Thank you.
So,
And everyone should get a hole punch for their brain.
Martin, can you leave the table like this? Will anybody be here?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Robotics was interested, I don't know if they're gonna be in again,
Okay.
they might disrupt it.
Okay.
cool.
Thank you.
We all